Namaste. Can you see those big fish? Mesmerizing. This is Mother Nature's silent transmission. Size of these leaves. They have this nice, beautiful texture at the bottom. Oh, hi, little fry friend. Oh, he flew away. Hello, dragonfly friends. Good morning. It is nice to see you again. All of you. We can't forget about the rock buddies. They're here too. They may appear insentient, but they are points of view in the grand scheme of things. So long as we're talking, I would like to talk about the relationship of inside and outside, and how this is only an idea, like being and non-being, that comes from the idea of conception. And this relates to the fact that all of this is your mind. And we've discussed who you are in the past. Just as a quick refresher, you are not your idea of yourself. There's the idea of the self. And that is perceived. By whom it is perceived, if it is anyone at all, it is another object of perception. And the one that perceives all of this is the one that perceives the arising of mind is no one at all, because it is just the space in which all the planets are orbiting. It doesn't have a texture of its own. And if it is, that belongs to the quality of manifestation and not to the absolute truth of the being of God, which is incomprehensible. It is not separate. It is just is. And you are that, and that's the thing. So out of this arises everything. Out of this nothing arises everything. And so things are born. The firstborn is I am. And so I am becomes self-aware. The isness becomes self-aware as I am. And this is perceived. This is already the arising of mind. And this I am gets attached to I am this body. And it starts to believe all these conceptions and who it is. And it believes in the form I am. Because the truth is that being comes from, because it's born. And so our idea of birth is it came from non-being. It became being. And so likewise, we will go from being into non-being, and this is called death. And this scares us because we have a conception of being as being apart from non-being being apart from being. But this, with the teaching of interdependent co-arising, which is something I'm learning from Thich Nhat Hanh, it is that as being comes into being, so does the idea of non-being. But this being arises out of non-being. And this non-being, in truth, arises out of the idea of being as something separate from non-being. And so, in truth, this non-being is being non-being. Because this being is undeniable. You cannot deny that all that are born die. And that all that come, go. And that they come and go and are perceived in this space, which alone exists. And so we are used to identifying with the identified. But now we are learning to identify with the identifier. And then perceive if this... Hello? See, there's the object of perception. And so I am the perceiver of that. Who perceives I? Can this one be perceived? Which is the same question. Does this one exist? Is there anyone here perceiving anything? And no. When you call out to an empty room, the echo comes back. And so this is just to reestablish what we've already said in previous videos, that you are the unborn awareness. This is the true self, and this is who I am talking to. This is who I'm referring to. That is from whom all of these, quote, ideas are coming through the lens of mind and language. So when something comes into being, there's an inside and an outside. Because this immediately, an empty bubble arises in pure space. But this bubble is filled with air. Whoa, I thought that was a bird. And so outside is empty space, and inside is full of air. But this too is conception. But it's because it's the idea of being as apart from non-being. Because if they're not separate, then there is no being. There is only non-being. Because it's not being anything. To be is to be something, is to be manifest, is to be impermanent, is to be suffering, is not self. This is all one motion, but we consider it as separate because we consider ourselves in time. But in truth, time is cyclical and is seen in the eyes of eternity. which is timeless. Because it didn't arise. Time arose as a concept in the idea, as an idea in the mind. And it is based upon true observation. But the truth is beyond all conception. Is before, behind, within, all. It just is. And everything that is that. But it is an expression of that, a temporary expression, a specific expression. And this is all life. And so the relation of inside and outside comes into being at the same time as being and non-being, and left and right, and self and other, and positive and negative, and good and bad, and all of these dualities spawn in, they're the same one duality. And the Maha Samadhi, I guess, is that these two are one. It's just, it has come into being. And so that motion creates an expression in a specific direction. And so one gets attached to this idea. And the more attached you are to the idea, the further away from yourself you really are. And as there's a force, there's also a counterforce. And as there is form, there's also emptiness. But it's something to the extent there's simultaneously, you need a mother, father, and a child. This is all one, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. It's not just two, it's three, because there's the oneness, which is really zero. And then there is duality, which is really one. And then from there, so there's already, where there is one, there is two. And where there are two, there is already three. I'm trying to think of whether I should continue downstream. Fuck it, let's do it. Woohoo. Speaking of streams. And so as duality manifests, it is a trinity. You need that which is to be born, the space in which it is born, and that which it is born as. Well, whoosh. Oh, hi. And these are all concepts. I'm not really here to talk about concepts. Because there's a leap of thought that I've already thought through, so I have to guide you through this in case you don't know that. Because how could I expect you to know that? Because I created it in my mind. So I'm sharing with you kind of the context. But what this is all going to say is that all of this is mind. And how is that? Well, mind is inside. This is outside. This is real. And if something exists as an object, if something is a thought, it is in the mind. And so how could this be the mind? And the point is to recognize where you came from, which immediately shows you that you are not separate from this, because the same mechanism that created all of this, every single cell of everything you see right here that is alive, even dead, everything is DNA. And what are you made of? DNA. And what is DNA made of? Atoms. And what are atoms made of? Quarks and vibrations. And it goes down infinitely and it expands outward infinitely. The planet, the cosmos, the universe, multiverse, etc. And so there's this infinite fractal, and this is what I keep coming to, which is there is the infinite fractal of God, But this is capital G-O-D. But then there is capital G, capital O, capital D, which is beyond all conception. And it is the space in which the mind arises. And the mind of God arises. And the mind of God is nature. The mind of God is the universe. The mind of God is all of this. And it is not separate from yourself. Because this is just as much you. That is just as much what you are. That is just as much this. Is just as much this. Is just as much this. Is just as much. All of this is one swift motion in time taking place in eternity. But we are in mind. Mind is distinction. Mind distinguishes yin from yang. It distinguishes all the dualities and particularities and creates these immaculate concepts. And the thing is that we forget that they all rise out of the same source. We forget that everything is God, that everything is equally God, that everything is equally the self, that there is no separation, that all of these things are the baseline truth. But we forget in order to play the game of duality, of life, of whatever. And so we imagine that this is all separate, that the objects of perception are separate from the perceiver. And this is actually an important step. Hi, spiderweb. It's not even a spider, it's just a beautiful spiderweb. Maybe at the right angle you can see it. It's beautiful. All things are beautiful. Hi, bird. Hi. It's important first to recognize that because there's suffering. And it is the first noble truth. And I intend to make an entire video on this. But there is suffering. And so you need to first understand that suffering is non-self. That everything that you see is suffering. And therefore it is not you, including your body. This body is not you. You were born into this body, let's say. And so the truth of who you are is beyond conception. And this is to bring you into the space of God. And from here, all of this is just happening. No cause, no effect. Just is. In the same way you are. But you are stillness, and this is motion. You are the heart, and this is the mind. And that bird tweeting is you in the form of a bird. And this water is you in the form of water. And this is actually a very great metaphor for consciousness. Water is consciousness. And then this is the surface of the mind. And then this is the environment, which is reflected in the water. And is distorted by the waves, which are created by things, by me walking in the water. By all the little crawdads running around, the fishies swimming around, the frogs leaping. All of this motion of life, of the buzzing activity of creates this echo-like resonance, which is the rising and falling. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And the thing is, was a wave ever born and will a wave ever die? Let's look at some waves. It appears that they are born and they die. But the truth is that the waves are only water. And so if we get attached to the idea that this wave is something separate from water, it has come into being. Oh no, oh no, We're coming into non-being. Oh no, we're gonna die. Everything that I know, everything that I've ever loved, everything that I've ever experienced of life is going to end. Oh my God, I'm dying. I'm dying. I'm dead. I was never born. I was never born to begin with. And likewise, the same motion that creates the wave is going to create more waves. You know, when you die, all of humanity isn't going to die. Just one singular person. And so all of these terrible thoughts that you had of it's all going to end, nothing ends. Just your particular movie just came to a conclusion. And so there's no difference between inside and outside. Because the only difference is the idea I. You know, did I create this or did God create it? Well, God created all of this. Unless it's a dream, then I created it. And that's the best metaphor I have, like, in my pocket to show you. Which is just like, in a dream, like I said in a previous video, in a dream, this can appear separate to me. And I've had many dreams recently where I'm not lucid dreaming, but I'm not lucid dreaming because I can't just, like, I don't know, whoosh, like I can't just make magic happen. But I am cognizant of the fact that I am in a dream and I am looking at that. I am seeing that is not me. That is separate from me. But I'm dreaming. I know I am dreaming because, you know, I can stick my finger through my hand or something like that. I can breathe through my nose. I can breathe underwater. I can do these strange things. And also the things that are my line of consciousness is coming and going. And so I can tell that I'm in a dream. I can tell that the dream's trying to pull me back into the dream, so I'm not aware. And so in these few moments of lucidity, I look and I see that the sky is still there. That everything, that I can control my body and I cannot control the external environment. Yet I know that I am dreaming. I am certain that I am dreaming. And then I wake up at some point to confirm I was in fact dreaming. So what was I seeing? And by what light was the room lit when my eyes were closed? How was that? How? It does not make sense. By every idea I have of reality, that does not make sense. And so we have to change our idea of what reality is to see that other than the self is not other than the self. Outside the self is not other than the self. Because the self that we are referring to is only an idea in the self. And the true self is indivisible. Is all of this is taking place in that and experiences itself as that. Because what you refer to when you say I, it is either the reality, which alone is, or it is an idea in the mind. If it is an idea in the mind, then you are God of your own mind. You created all these ideas. You created the landscape. You decided which ideas, and it also came from social conditioning. You decided which ideas that you would accept and which ones you would not accept. You know, you decided whether you are Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, Taoist, if you're a scientist, atheist, if you accept Darwinian evolution, if you accept Newtonian mechanics, if you accept Einstein's theory of relativity, if you accept whatever you accept, if you accept mathematical theory, and mathematical explanations of reality, if you accept Kabbalistic explanations of reality, if you accept reincarnation, if you think that this is your only life, if you think that whatever you think, you are thinking that. And now you picked up the idea from the environment in the same way that you pick this up. And boom, and now I'm holding on to this, and now this is separate from all of that because this is mine. Who are you? You are not. If someone can look at you, they can look at you picking up this, and so you see that you're picking this up, but they see you picking it up as part of the environment. You know, you look at an alien comes down from space, and he sees the silly human thinking that he's separate from the monkeys. and that the monkeys are separate from the trees, and that the trees are separate from the earth, and the earth is separate from the galaxy, and the galaxy is separate from the universe. You don't understand anything. And you can't understand anything, especially while believing in separation. And when you have given up the idea of separation, then you still can't believe anything, because everything is equally real and non-real. Because as it comes into being as something. It is a dualistic expression of the unitary reality. And so the further it goes into being, the further it goes from non-being, which is its true source. And so as you have a positive force, so arises a negative force, because everything comes mutually into existence, pursuing a goal, let's say, or embodying, because it's being, becoming, I am this body, I am this body, I improve this, I make this better, I make it more efficient, and this is the mind. And so everything comes into being and embodies an ideal. And once that ideal is embodied, it sees its flaws and it begins to improve itself. And improve itself, and improve itself, and then it looks for its flaws, and so it gets more and more refined and perfect. And so this is the process of reality, of creating reality. But then as you are doing that, because I'm a good, godly Christian man, I believe in love and life, and I feel like technology should be used to serve and improve nature and all of this. But likewise, the opposite, if I was born a different incarnation with a different set of worldviews, with a different set of conditioning, with a different understanding of what reality is, I could see that all of this is dying. All of this is death. Nature is a terrible system. It's a man eats man system. See, I see nature as a symbiosis. And all expression is a gift, and life just continues on forever. But if you are scared of wolves, and I'm scared of wolves, if a wolf just appeared right there, I'd be scared shitless. If a snake, if a predator, anything. And so I would come immediately back into duality, believing that I'm a separate entity and I must live and survive and live my life and etc. And so let's say someone has had several of these encounters, and so they really are stuck in believing in their own separation. And the reason I choose not to believe in separation is because believing in separation causes suffering. Because love pulls you into the one reality which alone exists, and you experience yourself and everything else as bliss, because there is no separation. You're only sad when you're away from home, or when you're stuck at home and you believe that you should be somewhere else. But when you are perfectly happy and content exactly where you are, because you understand that you are a perfect expression of the Dharma, and everything that your life is flowing forth from the Tao, and that, and I live by the grace of Jesus. And just that alone. Meditate on that, and I'm solid. There is nothing, okay, birth, death, who cares? Jesus sacrificed himself. He gave himself up. My life is only in service to him. And so what is my life? It's not mine. I willingly give it away because I'm a bodhisattva. Except these are all ideas. And so if you have the exact opposite idea of, Hitler, let's say, for example, he wanted to make a superior race, and therefore he wanted to eliminate the inferior races, and he had this really strong ideology associated that completely justified in his own mind everything that he was doing. So, and why is this? And we discussed in our last video, when you are attached to your own separation, when you have empathy and compassion for the Jews, that's a terrible situation. But when you see that this is all a simulation, and you're stuck inside of this thing, and you can't wake up, and everything is reinforcing this idea that you are a separate person, And so death is the Mahasamadhi, the liberation from the illusion, where you finally merge with the reality, which you really are. You go from imagining that you are being something separate into the totality of what non-being truly is. Then you see yourself, you go around and you sacrifice the lamb thinking that you are freeing its soul from its petty lamb body and making it realize God consciousness. And so you see, these are both just ideologies. Who am I to say that one is better than the other? Obviously, I prefer one. I prefer nature is a symbiosis. I prefer that everything is love, that the universe is one, etc. But if one takes the other ideology, they both, the more I enforce mine, and I learned this firsthand because I had a friend who had opposite views from me, and so we're no longer close friends. But the more I am attached to my own idea of what reality is, or separateness, the more I enforce that I am not separate, which is an idea, which is a false idea, because you are separate. We are all separate. And this rock is not that rock. They are not the same. There is no way. They are not the same. As many times as I throw these rocks, they will always be their own individual rocks. And so the more that someone believes in that, the more likely I am to believe in unitary. And the more I believe in unitary, the more they are likely to believe in separation, so long as we're clinging to our own ideas. And the more we cling to our own ideas, the deeper we go into the idea of being separate from non-being. Or the idea that everything is non-being, which is going further away from being. You see, they mutually, as soon as there's one sound, and this is what I was talking about earlier, there's one sound, but it's caused by, in percussion, you have the drumstick and you have the drum. And I forget the technical term, but there's the thing that hits the thing, and then there's the thing that is hit. And they are two separate things, and both of them coming together creates one sound. This is why you need the mother and the father to create the Holy Spirit, or the son, or the daughter, or the child. And the child grows up, and this is the beauty of life. The child grows up, becomes a mother or a father, and comes together with its significant other, and creates a child, which grows up to be a husband or a wife, and has a child, and etc., etc. And this is the beautiful flow of life, and this is the fractal that I was talking about, because it's the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, across generations, across beyond scale. And it's just the essence of what life is, and it goes on and 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 on. And why would it ever end? Because the in-breath creates a need for the out-breath, and the out-breath creates a need for the in-breath. And then there is the body, which is breathing, which is receiving oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. And then there's the plants, which are giving out oxygen and receiving carbon dioxide. And it's this beautiful symbiosis. And so here we are. As if we never left. Because you can see firsthand, did this ever change? Is that wave separate from the water? And is it separate from any of the other waves? And my favorite thing to do in meditation is to listen to the harmony of this and that and even that and the wind. And you got the water, the birds, the cars, the wind. You, depending on the time of day and year, you got crickets, cicadas, and all of this. And experiencing yourself. And because you think about, what is that cricket? What's the experience of that cricket self? And it's the same experience as yourself. Because here I am talking. I'm doing the same thing that the birds are doing. I'm just doing with a specific pattern of language to convey a certain meaning. But I am performing my dharma just as that plant is performing its dharma. And there it is. It's so beautiful. And this is God. And so is that. 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 And so is all of that. And so am I. And so are you. And so are we. And so are we. As such. Just all of this is the one same self expressing and experiencing itself as something individual. It's not even say separate. Because when you come into being, you come into being for a reason. Whether it be for a reason as to some context as something's already happening, like, for example, there's suffering, and so the Buddha incarnates as a bodhisattva to help ease and liberate the suffering. But also just, I want to be Jacob. And then I get tired of being Jacob. I want to be Israel, And then I get tired of being Israel, so here I am being Jacob again. And so it's this beautiful dance. And so, maybe I just want to be a bird. Just experience the wind and the And maybe I want to be, feather. Maybe I want to be a mountain sage. Maybe I want to be caught in the illusion. Maybe I just want to be a piece of moss growing on a log. Maybe I want to want nothing. But then this wanting to want nothing creates this idea, and so I get so frustrated. But it's all perceived, and so it's so funny. Because I have no idea who I am. And so it's this comedic value. And maybe I want to be someone good. Maybe I want to be someone bad. Maybe I want to be someone's enemy for the sole purpose of making them and myself stronger and sharper. And maybe I want to enter into a relationship like this. Maybe I want to. And all of life is this maybe I want to. Why not? I'm God. And it's the beauty and the pains of life and love. But you cannot have one without the other. And you have designed it specifically such that you cannot have one without the other. Because one is the other. They inter-are. Heaven, after infinitudes of infinity and infinitely infinite, is hell. You're stuck. You can't get out even if you want to, And then you're in hell. You die again. You're always suffering, always. But then you grow comfortable with the suffering, and then you just go numb, and then there you are in nirvana, and then. So they inter-are, and there is no separation. Woohoo. I don't want to break it, but I'm enjoying jumping. And bouncing. Woohoo. And I have nothing to say, honestly. This is just... It speaks for itself. And this is how I know that God loves you. Because he created all of this for you. In the same way that he created you. He chose to create you. He chose to be you. Because you are not separate from him. You are what he is. In the same way that this plant, this tree, this ground, this everything is what he is. Because this is all his mind. This is God's dream. And just in saying that, you can see the different levels of the fractal. Because you can dream and you are God. And God can dream and he is you. And I just want to share this over and over again. I have this feeling in my own personal life that I can't, no matter how hard I try, no matter how many times, no matter how perfect, no matter... I can recite to you the Heart Sutra and they don't get it. No one gets it. It's just me. And it's this, and this is my game, personally. Somehow I chose this. Although I would not choose it while I'm in it. You know, it's for some reason. It serves some purpose. Probably so that I could be exactly right here talking to you about it right now. But, it's just so beautiful. And that's all that matters. This recognition. And that none of this is the truth. That all of this is expressions of the truth. That is the recognition. That this is only a reflection of that. In the same way that that is only a reflection of that. That the mind is only a reflection of reality. But the water and the reflection are not separate. The image and the reflection are not separate. And watch this. Watch. Because it was basically still. And then I walked, and then there was big waves. And the big waves created, there were smaller waves. More and more agitation. Now some of them are subsiding. And it's... Hi, fishies. There's a big, stream of fishies. And you can see we're back to basically a still image. With just the very slight agitation of just life. Buzzing inside the water. Look at all of them. They're creating these tiny little ripple waves. And then you can see the ripples as they appear from just stuff falling onto the water. See, watch. There it goes. There it goes. And this is just consciousness. And then there's a movement in consciousness. And then once all movement subsides, because all movement takes place within time, and time is not eternal, cyclical and eternally reoccurring, we can say. But it itself is not eternal. And each one of these are expressions of the fractal. They are all the same movement in all of these beautiful different ways. And these are ideas. These are objects of mind. It's the thing that makes the water flow, you know, the surface of the ground on which it flows. Wow. It's just so beautiful. I will end my video here at 50 minutes. So, God bless you. May you recognize that your own life is only a part of the harmonious dance of life. And may you experience this as the deepest truth. Of the experiencelessness of the experiencer itself. May you recognize that you are beyond all distinction. And that you are not separate. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.